This is the second or third of the playtest packets that they did. Because if you didn't know how it worked, they were doing pretty public playtests. Then after the Kickstarter came out, they switched to like backer playtests, but only I think through August. And then from August to recently, they transitioned to internal playtests only. So it wasn't like a public thing. And this is now kind of, and now I guess it's pretty much almost done with internal playtesting, and is now basically ready to roll out. I think some point in the new year, it'll be rolling out to people. So I never got a chance to review these though back in the day, so I thought we could do that. So we have the Bard, Mechanist, and Warlock. Again, the Bard and the Warlock are kind of what you expect. The Mechanist, again, is their version of the Artificer. Bards have light armor, simple weapons, and martial weapons with a light property. Warlocks are light armor, simple weapons. And then the Mechanist is light armor, medium armor, and then simple and martial weapons. So we'll start off with the Bard. The main features that they have here that are kind of, this is all pretty much standard stuff. Because remember, Tales of the Valiant is designed to also be compatible with 5e. So it can't break too much of the tradition, but it can do enough to be, again, at the very least, legally distinct. We have spellcasting here, cantrips. Remember that ritual spells are not, in Tales of the Valiant, are not like ritual spells in 5e, where spells with the ritual tag in 5e can be cast as a ritual with a longer time frame. But they also can be cast potentially quicker using like a regular spell slot. Rituals in Tales of the Valiant are sort of their own thing. They're a separate list. And as you can see here from this progression table, they have spells known and rituals known are separate things. Also, if you see the reference to circle is essentially what's listed here. That's just the name change for slots. So rather than having like spell slots and like spell levels, you have arcane slots per spell circle. So I don't know why that happened, but this I think came from feedback that there were a lot of different things called the same thing. Like you have bardic inspiration, then you had the inspiration that a DM would give to people. You had your level, you had character level, class level, spell level. So I think the concept was to replace spell level with spell circle to kind of just give you less things named the same. All right. Spellcasting focus, not a big deal. Okay, so they have bardic inspiration. I believe bardic inspiration for Tales of the Valiant functions largely the same as it does for base 5e, but we'll take a look. It's a bonus action to a creature within 60 feet that can hear you. Starts as a d6. Once within the next 10 minutes, that creature can roll that die and add it to an ability check, attack, roll, or saving throw. Once it's rolled, it's lost. You can only have one at a time. You have them charisma modifier times per long rest. And then it increases as you level up. So that remains the same. Expertise remains the same. Now, this is something I very much like, and it harkens back to bards of old, and I very much like this specific ability here called Bardic Performance. And it actually allows you to perform as a bard, and it has a mechanical thing to it, right? So it says you weave magic into ongoing performances to produce effects beyond spells. You start with 1, Celebrate Life. You gain access to more effects as you gain bard levels, and your subclass could grant you specific ones as well. Unless otherwise stated, your allies must be able to hear you to receive this benefit. So as an action, you can begin a bardic performance, choosing which effect you create. Once active, you can continue the bardic performance for up to 1 minute, as long as you spend a bonus action at the start of each of your subsequent turns to maintain it. You can use your bardic inspiration feature as part of the same bonus action, required to maintain your performance. That's important because just as I was reading it, I was going to be like, oh, that's really going to be a problem because it's going to compete with your usage of your bonus action. So it's an action to initiate it the first time. And then you can persist it as a bonus action, but also can still use that to give out Bardic Inspiration, which is nice. It ends early if you become incapacitated, if you start a new performance, or if you choose to end it. You can use Bardic Performance to start a new performance a number of times equal to your proficiency bonus, regaining all uses when you finish a long rest. All right. And here is Celebrate Life, the first performance that you start with. While your Bardic Performance is active, allies within 30 feet of you that receive magical healing recover additional hit points equal to your proficiency bonus. Additionally, allies within 30 feet of you have advantage on death saves, though they don't need to see or hear you to receive this benefit. That one makes sense, because typically if you're in the process of having death saving throws, you're unconscious. So it's great because it combos with your bard stuff, but it also combos with any other kind of magical healing. So whether that be something like a lay on hands, something like a cure wounds, or what have you, you're just going to improve that overall while you keep the performance going. And again, the advantage on death saves, while hopefully is not a thing you need to rely on, is a nice thing to have. I also very much like this concept of the Bardic Performance as a class feature. Bardic Inspiration is a very nice and unique ability, but this gives bards a little something extra. It also makes designing subclasses that much easier in that you have a means of generating unique performance styles tied to the subclass, and that gives you just more versatility for creation. You get a subclass at 3rd and 7th, an improvement at 4th and 8th. Font of Inspiration pretty much remains the same here at 5th level, at least at the start anyway. You get your Bardic Inspiration uses back when you finish a short or a long rest, as opposed to just a long rest. But it also says, additionally, you can now spend your Bardic Inspiration in a new way. Whenever a creature you can see within 60 feet of you and can hear you fails an ability check, attack roll, or save, you can use your reaction to expend one of your Bardic Inspiration. When you do so, roll the die and add it to the number, potentially turning a failure into a success. Now, I really like that as well, because you still have the base fundamental usage of Bardic Inspiration. You have your standard usage of Bardic Inspiration as a bonus action. But now Font of Inspiration lets you use it as a reaction at 5th level to give it to somebody when they fail. So you can give it to them ahead of time, allowing and relying on them to use it whenever they want to. Or use it as a reaction in response to a failure, which is almost better because then they don't have to use it. You can use it just on a guaranteed fail to potentially flip it into a success. And then at 6th level, we get Clarity of Thought, which is a new Bardic Performance here. While your performance is active, allies within 30 feet of you can be charmed and have advantage on saves against being frightened. If an ally within range is already charmed when you begin your performance, it has advantage on any saves it makes to end the charm condition. This is essentially a better version of counter charm, but, tapping into this concept of Bardic Performance, which I like. All right, let me get on to subclasses, which I think we only have 2, or do we have 3? 2. So we have the College of Lore. This is the one that's contained within the SRD and Creative Commons. So it's going to give you Cutting Words, which is going to function basically the same way. When a creature you can see within 60 feet makes an attack roll, ability check, or damage roll, you can use your reaction to roll a Bardic Inspiration die and reduce it by that amount. Folklore at level 3. When you make an Arcana, History, Nature, or a Religion check, you can roll a d8 and add the number rolled to the check total. That does make more sense and feels more lore-ish. However, it isn't as good as like the 5e one, which is getting you flat out extra skill proficiencies. But I get it. And then we have Secret Lore here at 7th level. You learn 2 spells of your choice from any source list. Each spell must be of a circle for which you have slots. And that's the same. It's basically extra magical secrets. There you go. And then the other one we have here is the College of Victory. This is our more martial one, kind of like, I'm assuming, a replacement for Valor Bard. So at level 3, you're going to get proficiency with medium armor, shields, and a martial weapon of your choice. And it says when your Bard level grants you an improvement, meaning at any of like the typical ability score improvement levels, 4, 8, 12, and so on, and you choose a new talent. Again, reminder, talents are the feat replacement name for Tales of the Valiant. You can select a talent from the martial or technical talent list. So normally bards are only limited to the technical list. Now you can add martial to that as well. All right, Battle March is another new 3rd level ability, which is a new bardic performance exclusive to the College of Victory. When you begin your bardic performance, and as part of each bonus action spent maintaining it, you can command up to 3 willing allies who can see or hear you to use their reaction to move. Each target can move up to half its speed. This movement doesn't provoke attacks of opportunity. So again, right there, you're seeing the usage of the bardic performance allowing for customizability within subclass creation, which I like. And again, it's not like, it's part of the performance. And then again, while you're maintaining it, you can command allies to just get like a freebie move. Now let's look at how the performance works again. Very light battle master flavoring. Yes, definitely. As an action, begin a bardic performance. You choose which effect you create. So it's not like you're applying all of the versions you have. You can say, I'm going to activate a bardic performance for Battle March. And then when you do it, and then each time you extend it, you can choose to allow up to 3 people to get that reactionary move if they need it. And then at 7, you get Shared Strategy, which again is what we were talking about there about kind of the Battle Master sort of aspect of it. It says a creature that has a bardic inspiration die from you can roll that die and perform one of the following strategies, after which the bardic die is expended. So we have Bait and Bleed. If you take the dodge action, you can make 1 melee attack against a creature within 5 feet of you, adding the number rolled to your attack roll. And it states here that you refers to the creature with the inspiration die. Counteroffensive. If you take damage from a creature, you can use your reaction to make 1 attack against your attacker, adding the number rolled to your attack roll. You can't use this strategy if the attacker is outside the weapon's normal range or reach. Distraction. You take the disengage action as a bonus action. Immediately after, you can move a number of feet equal to 5 times whatever you roll on the die. Frightening Charge. If you take the dash action, you can make a melee attack at the end of the movement, adding the number to the attack roll. If the attack is a critical hit, the target is frightened until the start of your next turn. Hold Steady. If you take the ready action and that trigger for the ready action doesn't occur, you can make 1 weapon or spell attack roll after all other creatures have acted in the round, adding the number rolled to the attack roll. That one's really nice because nothing sucks more than readying an action with a specific trigger and then that trigger doesn't ever trigger. And then Indirect Approach. If you take the help action to aid a friendly creature and attacking a creature within 5 feet, the friendly creature can add the number rolled to their attack roll against the target, and each other friendly creature within 5 feet of you has advantage on its first attack roll against the target. I notice a lot of these are based on adding things to your attack roll. I would prefer more damage, honestly, than attack roll. Because, in some of these instances, it's going to, like, the help action one's you're going to have advantage on the attack anyway. I'd rather have the Bardic Inspiration die added to the damage as opposed to the attack. But it's nice, and it's cool to see, like, this is a bard. This gives me very, like, what most people would consider, like, warlord vibes, where it's, like, a bard that's using its inspiration and its performance abilities to inspire others to do feats of greatness. So I do like this quite a bit. But for me, the standout is the concept of the bardic performance. All right. Next up here, we have the Mechanist, which the table at the top said they had a D8 hit die. The table right here says it's a D10. So I don't know which one is correct. I'm going to just assume a D10 because I like that better. Yeah, I guess that makes sense. Cool lava, right? You're still a bard. Charisma is going to be your primary stat, so I think it's just there to help you. If you don't roll, yeah, that's true, but either way. So our Mechanist, we're going to assume it's a D10 because I like that better. We get still tool proficiencies and so on. All right, at 1, we get Eyes of the Maker. When you touch a magic item or some other magic imbued object, you learn its properties, how to use it, whether it requires attunement to use, and how many charges it has, if any. You learn whether any spells are affecting the item and what they are. If the spell is created by a spell, you know what spell created it. That makes sense, right? You're in theory, this kind of artificer type, right? So you're a creative type. You're making, crafting things, inventing. Makes sense that, just by like holding something, you kind of figure out what it is. Then also at 1, you get Shard of Creation. You learn how to craft a Shard of Creation, which is a tiny magical object that appears on your person. The shard's true appearance is fluid, constantly shifting bundle of plasma. The shard vanishes instantly if you are slain or if it's not on your possession for more than 24 consecutive hours. If it's destroyed or you lose it, you can perform a ritual to get one back. This ritual is part of a short or long rest. While touching the shard, you can use an action to transform it in one of the ways described here. A transformed shard remains in its new form until you die. Use an action to return it to its original state, or use an action to transform it again. You can transform the shard a number of times equal to your intelligence modifier, and regain all uses when you finish a long rest. No matter what shape it assumes, those who handle it can sense something strange about its nature. It can't be passed off for a typical item for purposes of buying and selling, and you can make one of the following transformations. Equipment. You cause the shard to transform into a non-magical weapon or shield. Object. You cause the shard to transform into a non-magical object of medium size or smaller. The object appears in an unoccupied space within 10 feet of you, but the chosen space must contain a surface or liquid capable of supporting the object. If the object you create is of an appropriate size to be worn or held, you can choose for the object to appear in your hand or on your person. Total GP value of an object created can't be more than 20 times your Mechanist level. Or a scale model. You cause the shard to transform into a tiny model of an object or structure. When you spend time crafting or interacting with a full-scale version of the object or structure depicted by the model, you are proficient in any tools required to craft or interact with it, and you add a d6 to the result of any ability check required to craft or interact with it. So basically, this is an opportunity for you to create some bit or bob, a possible piece of armor or a weapon or a shield, or a scaled-down version of something. I'm not sure how useful that's going to be, but again, potentially there's options and things you can do with that. At 2, you get Augment. You gain the ability to channel magical energies into items. To use this ability, you must spend 1 hour focusing on the item you wish to augment, while being in physical contact with it, and it can be done as part of a short or long rest. When you use Augment, you can create or choose an effect to create. You start with 2 Augment effects of your choice. Your Augment effect options are detailed at the end of the class description. At certain Mechanist levels, you gain additional augmentations of your choice, as shown in the Augment Effects Known column of the Mechanist progression table. Unless otherwise specified, the chosen augment effects last indefinitely. As an action, you can touch an item to end its ongoing augment. You can have augment effects active on multiple items. You must spend the required time focusing on each item individually, and a single object can only bear 1 augment at a time. The maximum number of items you can affect is equal to your proficiency bonus. If you try to exceed, you choose which one to end. You can augment your transformed shard or of creation as long as the shard's form meets the requirements for the chosen augment effect. If the shard has an ongoing augment effect when it is transformed, the effect remains in place as long as the shard is in a form compatible with the requirements. Boy, that's a lot. All right. It says Mechanist rules refer to both items and objects at different times, but the difference is important, so a clear understanding of the difference between the terms can help keep things on track. Item. This largely includes many kinds of physical materials such as walls, equipment, vehicles, and all items. Most non-living constructed things a PC would encounter are items. Object is a specific kind of item. It technically has a size, hit points, and armor class and can be interacted with and broken. Your DM determines what constitutes an object, but it usually isn't a structure or a vehicle. Okay. Subclass materials at 3, or subclass options at 3 and 7. Improvement at 4. We get rapid augment at 5. As a bonus action, you can touch an object and imbue it with an augment effect of your choice. You're still bound by the other restrictions, including limitations. You can use rapid augment proficiency bonus times per long rest. As opposed to it being over the course of an hour, you can now do it as a bonus action. We have greater transformation at 6th level. We can do more to our Shard of Creation. You can now transform it into any tool. You can now cause the shard to transform into any non-magical object of large size or smaller. All restrictions still apply. And scale model, when you spend time crafting or interacting with a full-scale version of the object or structure depicted by the model, you now add a D8 to the result as opposed to a D6. And then we move into the augment effects. These are kind of what you're able to do. We don't have too many. All right, so we have adhesive. This is required to be large size or smaller, large size or smaller in the object that isn't being worn or held. You imbue an object with the ability to stick to surfaces. While it's within 30 feet of you, you can use an action to speak it, its command word, and affix it to a solid object that it's touching. While affixed, it can support up to 1,000 pounds. If additional weight is added, it detaches. Okay. Its adhesive properties can't be activated again until you finish a long rest. A creature can spend an action to remove it with an athletics check based off of your intelligence. And if they succeed, they can detach it. If the object isn't forcefully detached, it remains attached for 24 hours or until you use an action to detach it. Okay, charged. This requires a weapon. When you successfully deal damage with this weapon, you can replace the weapon's damage type with a different damage type of your choice. The damage altered in this way is also considered magical. You can use this property a number of times equal to your proficiency bonus per long rest. Collapsible. A large size or smaller object or vehicle that isn't being worn, held, or fixed in place. You imbue this ability or an item with the ability to change size. While you touch the object or vehicle, you can use an action to reduce its size. When you do so, the target is halved in all dimensions. Its weight is reduced to 1/8 normal, and it decreases its size category by 1 from medium to small, for example. Target size can't be reduced further by multiple uses. Okay? Happy New Year. Happy New Year to you over there in Germany. I hope it holds up well as well. 2023 has been a year. Hopefully 2024 is a lot better. But I guess we'll see. All right, detecting. Right? It says this requires goggles, glasses, a spyglass, or some other transparent surface. While you touch the object, you can use an action to activate one of the listed effects. You must equip, wear, or actively look through this augmented thing to choose the effect. Dark vision gives you dark vision out to 30 feet or extends it by 30 feet. Heat vision, you can see invisible creatures and objects as if they were visible. You are also aware of any creatures within 30 feet of you or if any creatures come within 30 feet of you. Basically, constant usage of detect magic with magic vision or X-ray vision, the ability to see through solid material. To you, solid objects within that radius appear transparent and don't prevent light from passing through them. The vision can penetrate 1 foot of stone, an inch of common metal, or up to 3 feet of wood or dirt. Thicker substances block your vision, as does a thin sheet of lead. While the augmented object is activated, you can use an action to deactivate it and switch the type of vision it bestows. You can keep the object activated for up to a minute, all at once or in several shorter spans, each one using up a minimum of 6 seconds. We have empowered, which is a requirement for a weapon. If you touch it and it's non-magical, it gets a +1 bonus to attack and damage rolls and is considered magical. Enlightened, I guess this is just going to make things glow. Yeah, okay. Imbue with the ability to glow. While the item is on your person, choose an action to cause the object to emit bright light in a 20-foot radius, dim light in another 20. When you first activate the object, you can choose whether its light shines normally or whether it can only be seen by a number of creatures of your choice within 30 feet. Maximum number of creatures includes or equals your intelligence modifier. That's kind of cool to have something that glows that like only specific people can see. That could be really great for like signals and stuff like that. Projection. You imbue an item with the ability to mask its true appearance. While you touch the target, you can use an action to cause the item to appear as a different item of the same size and general composition. You can use this feature to change a target's overall nature. For example, a vehicle must always appear as another kind of vehicle, an object must always appear as another kind of object, etc. Change in appearance does not hold up to physical inspection. For example, if you use the effect to make a sharpened sword seem dull, anyone who touches the blade would be harmed as if they were touching a fine-edged blade. We have propulsion, armor, not shields, or smaller size objects that can be worn. You imbue an item with the ability to increase the wearer's speed. While augmented in this way, the base movement of that creature increases by 5 feet. In addition, while you wear the item, you can use an action to rise vertically up to 10 feet and remain suspended there for up to 1 minute. While suspended, you may repeat this action on subsequent turns, rising vertically up to 10 feet each time you do so. While suspended, you can move only by pushing or pulling against a fixed object, so it's basically like a levitation. We have Reinforce. Anything that has a hit point value, the target's hit points and hit point maximum increase by an amount equal to 5 times your Mechanist level. This would again be like fortifying or reinforcing a door or a wall or something like that. Returning. You imbue an object with the ability to return to your hand. While it's within 60 feet, you can cause it to instantly teleport into your hand as no action. Again, primarily, we would use this for, like, throwing weapons. And then, that's it. That's all we have for augment features. It says, this playtest contains an abbreviated list of the augment effects available to the Mechanist. We intend to add more options to the final version of this class. Also note that most of the options presented in this packet will have scaling upgrades that unlock at higher Mechanist levels. Okay. Chat says, Mechanist seems fine. Artificer has never appealed to me in general so far. Can tell they put a lot of work into it. Yeah, I don't really love Artificer personally. So I don't really have like this deep desire for the Mechanist to like blow me away. But I think it's fine. It's just that obviously you can tell it's very focused on creating stuff. And it didn't want to just give you the opportunity to just like replicate magic items outright like an Artificer can. But we do have 2 subclasses. We have the Spellwright and the Metallurgist. Again, none of the Artificer subclasses are in Creative Commons, so these had to be created originally. So it says the Mechanist, or Metallurgist here. Mechanists who pursue the Metallurgist craft delight in the thrill of combat and engineered armaments. So at 3, we get Absorbing, a new augment feature, which can be for armor and shields. You empower armor with the ability to absorb and adapt to different types of damage. When you take a single instance of acid, cold, fire, force, lightning, poison, or thunder damage while wearing or wielding the object, you can use your reaction to reduce the damage by an amount equal to twice your intelligence modifier. You then gain resistance to the triggering damage type for 1 minute, or until you use this feature again to absorb a different damage type. This is proficiency bonus times per long rest. In a similar way to the Bardic Performance, the concept of these augments for the Mechanist works really well in terms of subclasses, because yet again, a very easy way to design subclasses is to provide them with different subclass-specific augments, which works out really well because it eases your, like, when you're trying to design subclasses for it, just come up with a different use of augments, which is what we're seeing here with this Absorbing augment, which you can use to lower damage and then grant resistance. We also get Mystic Metal at 3rd level. You learn to transmute armor into a mystical form synergized with your power. If you spend 1 hour of uninterrupted focus in contact with a non-magical suit of armor, this may happen during a rest, you can transmute that armor into a suit of mystical metal. It lasts until you choose to end it, or you use this feature again. Any ongoing augment effects on the armor automatically end when the armor reverts to its normal state. If anyone other than you attempts to don it, it reverts to its normal state. Once transformed, the mystical metal resembles a head-to-toe suit of metallic armor, but you choose its color, style, and cosmetic details. So this is Iron Man, basically. Regardless of appearance, mystic metal armor is not made of natural materials such as metal or wood. Therefore, it isn't affected by spells like heat metal or abilities like a rust monster's antennae. The mystic metal is lightweight, doesn't hinder movement, and you are considered proficient with it. It provides the following benefits. It gives you armor class is 13 plus your proficiency bonus. While worn, it is attached to your body and can't be removed against your will. If it is on the same plane of existence as you, you can use a bonus action to summon the armor. When you do so, you choose whether it appears in an unoccupied space or fully on you, fully donned. And then while you wear the armor and you aren't holding anything, each of the armor's gauntlets can function as a simple melee weapon with which you are proficient. On a hit, it does a d6 bludgeoning damage. Add your strength modifier to hit and to the damage as you would normally. Creatures who who handle or inspect it can tell it isn't a true magic item. And then at 7th level, you get Heavy Hitter. Each gauntlet of your mystical metal now counts as a separate item for the purposes of imbuing it with augmenting effects. Additionally, once per turn, when you successfully hit with a gauntlet, you can use a bonus action to make an attack with the other gauntlet. So as far as I could tell, you don't have extra attack. So punch and then like a bonus action punch if you so choose. You also don't get spells as a base Mechanist, and you're not getting extra attack. So, interesting. Well, let's see what this spell right does, because I think this one does get spells. Yeah, Mechanists who pursue the spell rights craft are fascinated by the intricacies of magic and its potential to enhance their creations. Spell rights are the enchanters, tinkerers, and crafters responsible for magic items. Okay. So Artifice Intuition, whenever you wield a magic weapon, including weapons with an augment effect, you can use your intelligence instead of strength or dex for attack and damage rolls. Imbue Spell is a new augment. Requires a weapon, item, or shield or something. You imbue an item with a spell-like offensive or defensive magical property, choosing one of your imbue spells known when you do so. You get, some spells known. While holding the item, you, and only you, can take an action to produce the spell's effect from it using your spellcasting ability. If the imbued spell requires concentration, you must concentrate as per spellcasting rules. And then it says, when you first gain access to this feature, choose 2 first-level spells from the Abjuration or Evocation School. These are your imbue spells. They can be from any source, arcane, divine, primordial, or weird, but they must have a casting time of 1 action. You can't cast these spells as a normal spellcaster would, but you know these spells for the purposes of using this feature. You learn more as you level up. Uses your intelligence. And then we have Device Savant at 7th level. Your metaphysical understanding of magic items allows you to use them with ease. You ignore all restrictions on use of magic items, including class, lineage, or level. If a magic item requires its user to have access to spells from a specific spell list, you can ignore those restrictions. If an item requires the use of a spell save DC, it's based off your intelligence. I like this a lot. This is something we've seen before. I think most Artificers get this. I think at least the Artificer gets them base. The Mechanist here, the Spellwright, gets it. But I also like that it spells it out very clearly because, again, they don't have typical spell access. It basically now just says, if it uses a spell save, this is what you're just going to use. We're going to make it easy for you and just clearly spell it all out. All right. Then we move on to the Warlock. Now, there could potentially be a lot of good here because we all know that Warlock is pretty good. Thank you, Ed. Oh, Happy New Year from Scotland. I'm not a druid as far as I know, but I mean, maybe. I've never tried to turn into an animal. It's just doesn't seem like it, but anyway, Happy New Year. Let's see what they've got for the Warlock, because Warlock in 5e is pretty good, but it's not perfect, and it could use some tweaks. Now, I will say the 1D&D updates to the Warlock did do a lot to push it more in my favor. Let's see how the Tales of the Valiant Warlock stacks up. So, Eldritch Blast. It is now a class feature, not a spell, which I think is how it always should have been. I've always kind of felt that way. That's how it was when Warlocks were first introduced in 3.5, so it kind of makes sense to me. As a result of binding themselves to otherworldly powers, Warlocks can conjure baleful magical energy. As an action, you can send a beam to a creature within 120 feet, make a spell attack, does a d10 force damage. Upon achieving higher levels of Warlock, you can create more than one beam. This feature creates 2 beams at 5th level and more at higher levels. Separate attack for each beam. Okay? It says, though Eldritch Blast uses ranged spell attacks, it is not a true spell, meaning that in this instance, it can't be hit with counterspell or affected by metamagic. You're also going to get your Pact Boon here at level 1. It says, you gain one of the following features of your choice. Pact of the Blade. You can use your action to create a pact weapon in your empty hand. When you do so, choose the form. You are proficient when you wield it. This weapon counts as magical. When you attack with it, you can use your charisma instead of strength or dex for attack rolls. Your pact weapon disappears if it's more than 5 feet away from you for a minute. You can transform one magic weapon into your pact weapon by performing a special ritual. Pretty much standard stuff. Pact of the Chain. You learn Find Familiar and can cast it without the need for any material components. And you can choose from the following forms. In addition to the normal forms, Blink Dog, Imp, Pseudo Dragon, or Quasit. I like that they added Blink Dog in here because that now gives you a Fey option as well. We always just had Imp, Quasit, and Pseudo Dragon, which were Dragon, Demon, Devil. Blink Dog is nice because it's going to give you access to a Fey option. I also, as mentioned in the chat, like the changes to Pact of the Blade. That's also what we've seen Wizards of the Coast do. Basically choosing to not have Hexblade be an option anymore, just baking the Hexblade functionality into Pact of the Blade. And then we have Pact of the Tome. You get your Book of Shadows. When you gain this feature, choose 3 cantrips from the weird spell list. While the book's on your person, you can cast those cantrips at will, and then obviously it has rules for recovering it. Here is the table. You're going to have your spells known here, your slots per circle level, and then your invocations. Again, you're going to have Warlock invocations. It's kind of their feature. Spellcasting. Let's see. Do we automatically... I think we are just getting spell slots for the Warlock here. We're not getting, like, 5e Warlock where it's auto-cast at the highest level. So it says you get weird spells. You know a small number of spells. You can cast any spells you know by using a spell slot of the spell circle or higher. Yeah, so it shows slots per circle level, so I think it's pretty much standard spellcasting. You can use a focus. You get your subclass features at 3rd and 7. Progress, an improvement here at 4th level. And then an enhanced boon at 6th level. So if you chose Pact of the Blade, when you make the attack with a weapon, you can attack twice. Again, that's exactly what Wizards of the Coast did with their updated enhanced boon. Pact of the Chain, you can communicate telepathically with the familiar perceived through its senses. Additionally, you can speak through it with your own voice. And then Pact of the Tome, choose 2 ritual spells of 1st or 2nd level from the weird ritual list. The spells appear in the book and don't count against the number of spells known. With your Book of Shadows in hand, you can cast the chosen rituals. And then you basically can add additional ritual spells, which gives you access to rituals, which normally the Warlock would not have. And then we can see what our Eldritch invocations are. Agonizing Blast is, again, basically what it always is. When you use Eldritch Blast, add Charisma modifier to the damage. Armor of Shadows, Mage Armor at will. Bewitching Whispers is a 7th level one. You can cast Compulsion without expending a spell slot once per long rest. Beyond Sight, you can see magic, darkness, magical and non-magical, out to 120 feet. Dreadful Word, Confusion once per long rest. Eldritch Burst. When you use Eldritch Blast, you don't have disadvantage on attack rolls if you're within 5 feet of a hostile creature who can see you and isn't incapacitated. So you can basically fire into melee without any disadvantage. Detect Magic at will. Eldritch Spear, it now goes out to 300 feet. Eyes of the Runekeeper, you can read all writing. Fiendish Vigor, again, False Life at will. Some of these are basically the same as they are in base 5e. Gaze of Two Minds, touch a willing humanoid and perceive through its senses, as long as you're on the same plane of existence. Mask of Many Faces, Disguise Self at Will, Mire of the Mind, Slow without expending spell slot, Misty Visions, Silent Image spell at will, One with Shadows. When you're in an area of dim light or darkness, you can use your action to become visible until you move or take an action or reaction. Repelling Blast knocks them back. Sculptor of Flesh is Polymorph, once per long rest. Sign of Ill Omen, Bestow Curse, once per long rest. Stolen Knowledge, any 2 skill proficiencies or tool proficiencies. And Thief of Five Fates is Bane without expending spell slot. So it's nice that they changed all of them to basically be if they're gonna give you a freebie spell, you don't have to use your spell slots to do it. You just get to cast them as a freebie. And then we have the Fiend Warlock, which is again the one that was contained in the SRD and went into Creative Commons, and then the Reaper, which is the new one. So it says Fiend spells. You gain subclass spells at Warlock level listed. So it's good. It looks like they're just giving you these extra spells. They're not making it like a weird expanded list that you have to choose from, like base 5e Warlock was, which was always kind of dumb. Now it's just, you know, Burning Hands, Commands, Scorching Ray, and Suggestion, which is great. Dark One's Blessing looks to pretty much be the same. When you reduce a hostile creature to 0 hit points, or hostile creature within 30 feet of you is reduced to 0 hit points, you gain temporary hit points equal to your proficiency bonus plus your Warlock level. Because that's nice. It's not just if you kill them, it's if somebody else defeats them as well, as long as you're within 30 feet. You just get those extra hit points. They last until you finish a long rest. And then again, Dark One's Own Luck at 7th level, which is just the ability to, when you make an attack, ability check, or save, to add a d10 to that roll. And then we have the Reaper. Basically, this is a death kind of spirit or undead that you're kind of forming a pact with, giving you Shield, False Life, Branding Smite, and Spiritual Weapon. Interesting choices there for sure. And then we have... oh, did this one have it too and I just missed it? Okay, this one also gets expanded talent list, which now gives you the opportunity to choose from the Martial talent list. Again, talents being the feat replacement for Tales of the Valiant. You now are able to choose the Martial talents on top of the magic ones. And then you get Reaper's Mantle at 3rd level. As a bonus action, you activate your Reaper's Mantle for a minute. It ends early if you die or become incapacitated, and it provides the following benefits. When you deal damage to a creature within 5 feet of you, the creature takes additional damage equal to your proficiency bonus. When you make an attack roll against a creature within 5 feet of you, the attack is considered a critical hit on a roll of a 19 or 20. If the hostile creature within 5 feet of you dies, you regain hit points equal to your proficiency bonus plus your Warlock level. Once you use this Reaper's Mantle feature, you can't use it again until you finish a short or long rest. I really like this. This is essentially giving you kind of almost the Hexblade stuff here. And then you have Eldritch Warrior at 7th level. When you spend an action to use your Eldritch Blast feature, you can make a single melee attack against a creature within 5 feet of you as part of the same action. So regardless of how many Eldritch Blasts you're shooting, you can still make a melee attack against a creature within melee range while doing Eldritch Blast. I don't think it said, did you get the spell slots back on a short rest still? I don't know. Maybe I missed that. I don't think so, though. Yeah, all spell slots when you finish a long rest. So you won't be as dependent on short rests as a existing 5e Warlock based on the alteration of the spells and things that you're given. But I do like that this Reaper one is obviously one very geared towards like the Pact of the Blade. That's kind of more of your melee specific one. And then it shows off here the weird spell list, showing off what cantrips they have, as well as 1st level spells, 2nd level spells. And then we have a couple of rituals here: Create Familiar, Find Steed. And then we move into lineage options. We have 2 new lineages, which again is kind of like a race replacement. Lineage 1 is Orc, which is going to give you the following benefits. Pretty standard stuff for age, size, and speed. You're going to get Orcish Perseverance. Whenever you would die due to suffocating or gaining levels of exhaustion, you instead enter a death-like stasis. Oh man, it's Peter North. What's going on, dude? While in stasis, you are incapacitated, can't move, can't speak, and are unaware of your surroundings. I'm doing good, buddy. It's good to hear from you. Good to see you. Let's see. While in stasis, you're incapacitated, can't move, can't speak, and are unaware of your surroundings. You also cease to age, and your body is protected from decay. You can remain in this state until you are restored by mundane or magical healing. This is so bizarre. And it's very specific. So when you would die due to suffocating or gaining levels of exhaustion, you basically enter like stasis mode. You can't do anything. You're not aware of what's going on, but you can basically just kind of hang out in this stasis mode until somebody heals you. Kind of odd. Oh, jeez. Thanks, son. All right. Well, now it's party. They got all sorts of snacks and things. All right. Yeah, it does seem a little too niche. I will agree with that. Happy New Year. Sharp senses, advantage on perception checks. We could probably get the dogs in here at some point. That's definitely a possibility. Advantage on perception checks that rely on sight and hearing, and you can see through lightly obscured areas as if they weren't obscured, and areas of dim light as if they were brightly lit. So that's an interesting one, this sharp senses, because it's not just like you can see in the dark. You can also see through like fog. This is lightly obscured area, so like if there was a fog, you could see through it. Kind of odd. And then stalwart, when you are subjected to an effect that requires you to make a save at the end of your turn, you can make it instead at the start of your turn. That's an interesting one. I like that one a lot, actually. But I don't think I really like... Now remember that Kobold Press with Tales of the Valiant has lineage and heritage, right? So lineage is like the biological aspect. Heritage is sort of the upbringing. Yeah, also to your point, Quilava, the Warlock, does seem like a means of making the, was it the Undying Warlock better? Orcus Perseverance is basically, unless you're doing something that's constantly putting you into exhaustion, this is kind of a useless ability in my opinion. Sharp senses and interesting, especially like I said, because of the implications that you can just like see through smoke and fog. And again, forcing saving throws at the start of your turn as opposed to the end could be really game changing. So I like that a lot. It says player advice, a save made with stalwart trait happens first at the start of the PC's turn, superseding other effects that trigger at the start of the turn. This distinction is important when an orc suffers an ongoing effect that deals damage at the start of their turn. Okay, so this happens actually before that, so you would actually possibly get around the damage. And then we have Siderians, which are a rare mystical being sired by creatures of powers from a different plane of existence. Siderians may be conceived by the physical union of a mortal with a celestial or fiend. So is this like a tiefling? Such pairings are rare and steeped in portents or conspiracy. More often, they are born to an unsuspecting mortal family. Yeah, I guess these are like tieflings, essentially. Does it tell us anything about their appearance? There are even instances of fully grown humanoids suddenly transformed into a Siderian in a flash of light or a burst of sulfurous smoke. Okay. So yeah, I guess they're basically like the Tiefling Aasimar combo dealy. I don't know, what do they get? Dark Vision. Proficiency in the Insight skill. And then Natural Adaptation. Either Celestial or Fiendish. Okay. You've inherited one of the unique traits determined by the kind of being that shaped you. Celestial. Luminous eyes, glass-smooth skin, or the ability to stay perfectly still for hours are manifestations you inherited from the cosmic forces of good or order. Resistance to radiant or necrotic damage, your choice. And Celestial You understand it, but you don't know how to speak or read it. And then Fiendish, bony horns that jut from your skull or joints, the stench of corpses and brimstone, or tar-like saliva are manifestations you inherited from the planes of darkness and punishment. You get resistance to either fire or cold damage, your choice, and you can understand either abyssal or infernal, your choice. I don't love this. The insight skill feels odd. Like, that just feels out of place to me. You know? I don't know. I'm not sure. I like some of the stuff of the orc, and I'm actually probably most excited about the stalwart ability and how, like, classes or other monsters might get access to this. This could be, like, a cool thing. And again, just, like, the shenanigans you could do with, like, ever-smoking bottle or something. Like, shenanigans by making a fog cloud or something like that. Stuff you might be able to do with sharp senses. There's something there for that for sure. Yeah. What else? Okay, I guess that's that. What else? Also kind of weird that you can understand the language but can't read or speak it. Yeah. Like, I get it. It's like you just innately understand it. Kind of makes sense. But it also feels bizarre, you know? Yeah, you don't know how to speak or read it. You just can, like, understand it. I guess it's supposed to be, you know, because of the fact that, like, you have all of these. Like, it's just an innate thing. I don't know. It's bizarre. I think they're a little lacking. Again, remember that, like, it's not going to be as, like, quote, powerful as a 5e race because it's not all of that. It's the lineage and then the heritage comes separate. So, I mean, potentially if you had a heritage that gave you, like, a resistance to damage and you're looking for a purely min-max scenario, you might have, like, this fiendish one here where you get cold damage proficiency or something. Might be useful. But yeah, I mean, all in all, I like the race. The lineages are kind of lacking, in my opinion. Like I said, I have a side of a couple of things, but I like the Warlock reworks, but I'm not sure about the spells. You know, Wizards of the Coast tried to change spell slots for Warlocks to be more like a traditional spellcaster, and then everybody went, or at least so we're told, many people went against that concept. And that's why they reverted them back to, like, the traditional, like, Warlock spell slot method of, like, they auto cast at the highest level kind of thing. So I'd have to playtest it to really give it a true shake. But I think the updates to the invocations are fine. I think the making Eldritch Blast a class feature, I think, is fine as well. I've talked about that because I feel like you were fundamentally nerfing yourself if you were not taking Eldritch Blast. So just making it not a choice and just giving it to you makes sense to me. The update to the Pact boons are fine. And then enhancing them at 6th level makes sense. They didn't really touch the Fiend pack at all, other than the fact that now the spells are just like extra spells that you know automatically, which is fine. That's actually how they should have been in 5e, so I'm down for that. And then their Reaper, again, is kind of like their Hexblade, like, melee-based Warlock. The Mechanist was okay. I didn't, like, love it. but I also don't really love that archetype of like the inventor creator type. At least in D&D anyway. But I do think that the Bard is a very strong showing. The introduction of the Bardic performance as a class feature is very nice, and then I like seeing how they've differentiated it in certain subclasses and then added more abilities to it. And ultimately, it just took Counterspell or Counter Charm and made it like an actually viable option, which is nice. So that, I think, will do it for the Kobold Pressed playtest packet number 5, which is the last of the backer playtest packets that were publicly available. Again, everything since then has gone to internal playtesting. And like I said, I believe Tales of the Valiant is done and will be, arriving sometime in early 2024. I mean, we'll see what happens, but yeah.